Hey, welcome to episode 37 of Enjoy the Journey with Erin Chambers. I'm so glad that you found my podcast. If you like it, would you subscribe? Would you share with a friend? Give it a thumbs up, give it 5 stars. Those things are also very helpful. I'd really appreciate it. Today, we have a conversation with a very successful businessman, very financially successful, Ron Worley. Ron Worley and I partnered for a book, and I helped him to get the book written and finished. And it's a book called Ditches to Riches. And in this conversation, we're going to share the true story of how Ron literally rose up out of a ditch to become, he and his wife to become successful business leaders. He actually died and had to be brought back to life. And he shares that little bit of that about that in our conversation. So I'm so glad that you found this podcast, and I hope this conversation will help you to enjoy the journey. All right, y'all. Hey, this is going to be a fun conversation today. We're talking to Ron Worley. Ron is a friend of mine. We had a chance I did some consulting with him for a book that you're going to hear about. But I wanted to talk to Ron because I have interesting conversations with interesting people. And what could be more interesting than a guy who died and survived that? Dude, Ron, it's great to talk with you. Welcome to my podcast.
Good to talk to you, Aaron. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, Ron is a really good friend, and I'm excited to talk with him. All right, man. So you wrote a book that we worked together on, but you
Yeah.
wrote it. I did some consulting called Ditches to Riches, and we're going to talk about it here in a little bit. So when did you decide you wanted to write a book, man?
Yeah. So that was just kind of out of the blue. You know, some things happen in life, and I thought to myself that I needed to leave something for the children. And that was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And so I just started regurgitating. You read it. It wasn't a book. It was just vomit on paper. And thank God I found you, because when you started helping me, you made it into a book, gave it direction, the plot, and it just kind of went from there. What did it take us a couple of years to put it together. Yeah, now it's been out since October, and it's been just a ton of fun.
Yeah, Ron,
Talking about myself.
You're being too kind. You're an entrepreneur of entrepreneurs and a visionary. I just kind of I added some basic infrastructure to your ideas, but you wrote the book, and it's a great story, and it's true. And we're going to get into that in just a second. So Ditches to Riches, your story is of overcoming. And
Yes.
talk a little bit about your story, man. Give the audience just a little glimpse of kind of the background of what has ended up being a highly successful life. But how did it start?
Yeah. So first of all, just so everybody knows, you came up with the name on the book, Ditches to Riches, just so you remember that. And it was perfect because the book takes off in the lowest point of my life to date. And I was basically at rock bottom, homeless, was laying in a ditch after a rollover car accident where I was drinking and driving. I had just gotten my third DUI the week prior. I was doing drugs and alcohol left and right. I had lost my children. I was 6 months estranged from them. And that was killing me every day, Aaron. Like every day I thought about them and knew what I was doing to them by not being in their lives, but I couldn't be in their lives. I was completely hopeless and without God and without any hope of any hope in general, man. Like all hope was gone. And I was slowly trying to kill myself with drugs and alcohol. That's the long and short of it. I had by this time had tried many attempts at suicide, but I actually had one really successful one where I actually died. And I just kept living. And so it dawned on me I wasn't going to be able to kill myself. So let's try drinking and driving, or let's try drinking and drugging. And that didn't work either. So the book takes off right from that spot, the lowest part in my life. And then from there, it just, my life has changed since I decided to get sober. I took off back to Colorado. I was in Nebraska at the time, homeless and hopeless. And when I took off back to Colorado, I got with my brother, and he gave me an ultimatum. He said, if if you can get sober, you can stay here. If you're not sober, you're gone. And I had to respect that. So, hey, I got sober. I knew I was coming back here for help. My mother had written me off, and that was sort of the last straw for me. I had no more people that were willing to bet on me. And mind you, I was making six figures a year before this point in my life. I in the early or the later 90s, so it was good money, and I had three children and houses and cars and boats and a wife, and not in that order, but my life was put together. But unfortunately, the way I grew up sort of all came to a head. But you know, by the time I was 15, I was a full-blown alcoholic and drug addict, and uh, but I was functional. And then by the time I was 30, I wasn't functional anymore. That had taken over, and so here I was, homeless and in a ditch, and now back in Colorado, and I was getting sober, and life was good again. I got my children back, but I found time on my hands. So of course, when you have time on your hands and you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, you better do something with that time. And so I have spent my entire sobriety filling time daily. And that's basically what I do. I run around filling time, businesses and kids stuff, and uh, building houses, and just trying to make a difference in the world, really, overall.
Okay, let's go back for a little bit, because one of
Okay.
the things as you talk that I think is going to be so helpful, Ron, is so we have people listening, and I know somebody who's listening knows somebody who struggles with being an alcoholic, or they struggle with being an alcoholic. Um, and for your honesty can be really helpful for people.
Yeah.
Um, and you just, I wasn't planning on going this direction, but let me ask you, so why did you start drinking? And what are some misconceptions about alcoholics that are out there? Like, to start with, why did you start? You started drinking young age. What was it that drove you to alcohol?
Well, so I always say I didn't have a choice. When I was 2 years old, my parents started giving me marijuana and to go to sleep at night. And from time I was two to time I was 30, I was always chasing a high of some sort. Even at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, I was looking to be around people that were smoking weed, and it was always the adults, and it was always the adult men. And so I would get in this circle to try and get high, because that's what I was after. And I remember that very real feeling of, oh, I'd like to get high right now. And at 12 years old, my parents cut me off, said no more smoking weed. That's wrong. All of a sudden they said that's wrong. And uh, so I started trying to find it myself. And when I started doing that, then I was off to the races. When you look for weed and you get alcohol, you drink the alcohol. When you look for weed and you get cocaine, you do the cocaine. It's just whatever the high is. And it was happenstance, really, that I found all the drugs that I found. They are a plentiful, but not everything's always available. My choice was to drink, but gosh, I did so much acid in high school. I'm surprised I'm not insane at this point. LSD was my common go-to, probably monthly, if not weekly. And for me, it was just a drive to get high. I mean, usually when I got high too, I didn't enjoy being high. I just wanted to get high. And there's a lot of peer pressure, not feeling like like I was insecure and beaten down. I'd witnessed some things in my life that probably weren't good for me. And it just made this, it's like a combination of watching the adults do what they do, and then also the feelings that I have inside of me. They always say that uh, addiction is a sign of this. It's a symptom. Drinking is a symptom of the real problem, and I believe that. I met with Diane for 5 years to sort of straighten that stuff out, but nowadays I don't even think about it. It's not, I'm spiritually healthy. I'm physically healthy. Um, my life is good. My wife is good.
Hmm.
You helped with that too. And, you know, I don't even think about it, but there's, when things are bad, I think about it. That's a fact. I would love to.
Diane is a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She was So, what's funny about Diane is I heard this cliche stuff where you got to go through your childhood and relive this stuff and really break it down. And I didn't believe any of that until I met her and we started doing it. And really, the foundation of our lives is at childhood. And if that was, and what I found out was I suffered massive amounts of trauma as a child that I had PTSD to, and I was self-medicating quite a lot. And ultimately that's, I had to cure those issues and become something of a processor, and that's how I look. I'm an imperfect processor now. I don't always do it right, but yeah, I process things a little slower than most people. My emotions get processed differently, and that's why having values for me was so huge. I had a way to process that was healthy, a mantra that I could use to get through life, much like real people. But for me, it was much more difficult. I had to learn it. It was something I had to learn as an adult. It's like walking all over again.
So you experienced a lot of trauma growing up. Like,
Yeah.
let me look at it from a different. Let me ask you a question that you may not see coming. Um, what's one of your favorite memories from growing up?
Oh yeah. So this one's easy, man, because it was a repeated memory. It was a repeated event. So every single Saturday was like Christmas Day for us. My mom was usually home, and so we would wake up early and start watching cartoons. And Cartoon Saturday was just like my favorite day ever, right?
Yep.
Bugs Bunny was always on, and so we spent the first 6 hours of the day watching cartoons, and that was a beautiful thing. But that wasn't even the best part. The best part was, okay, it's time to go play soccer or one of the sports on Saturday, which is always, as young kids, Saturdays is the sport day. And when we would walk outside in the spring, and I remember having my long tube socks on and my shorty shorts, and I just thought to myself, what a beautiful day and what a beautiful time to be alive. I'm so lucky that I get to just do this. And I can still remember how the sun felt on me that morning, just like everything was new and fresh, and I had a fresh outlook. And my mom was on her best behavior. My dad was on his best behavior on Saturdays. They were probably hungover. Uh, but it was always, Sunday was always the worst day because everything started over again. But Saturdays were the best, man,
Hmm.
and still are. I still love Saturdays. I still get up the same way. I sing my Toys R Us song in the shower and bust out my Saturdays. And I try to leave those open so that I can just do that. Drink coffee and lay around and do nothing and watch the sunset or sunrise and just feel good about myself. That's recharge day.
So we've heard the interesting thing about the sun is that it can harden clay and melt wax.
Mm.
And your experience could have broken somebody. And how did you talk as you think about your childhood, your upbringing? How did you um, not become a victor, but excuse me, not become a victim, but become a victor?
Yeah. So first of all, I thought I lived a normal life. I didn't
Huh.
realize that I was having I until I got a little older and realized I had to hide these things that was going on in my house from my friends. I would go over to their other kids' houses, and it was, they have their lives, and I realized, oh, I'm not normal. My family isn't normal. Not everybody's got a biker dad, and not everybody's parents are hippies and oil field and this and that. And so I learned to hide things. And I always just thought that, my life isn't as bad as someone else's. And I still believe that. I still don't believe that I had this god awful life. I mean, how can I convince somebody of that when I'm where I'm at now? And
Hmm.
my mom is where she's at now. This woman lived through the same exact things. And now, when I started having children, though, that's when I really realized that, oh, yeah, things were pretty screwed up because I wouldn't do some of these things to my kids.
Mhm.
A lot, 90% of what I went through, witnessed, was a part of, I would never have my kids anywhere near it. Um, and, my mom is a survivor. I mean, I'll give her the credit for that, but she also was part of the problem. And her and I have very frank, open discussions and have had many of them. Especially when I was getting sober, I was blaming a lot, but I got to a point where I could realize that she was also sick, and I was sick, and I realized that, you know, she was getting better, and you just sort of have to forgive that time in your life and move on. The only thing that I really had to mourn, and I still mourn to this day, and I feel like I've lost time in my life, is the fact that I didn't have a choice with the drugs and alcohol. So I lost my childhood to drugs and alcohol all the way. And at 18, it was my fault. And so I lost my 20s too. And in my 30s, I mourned my 20s, like, oh my gosh, that just blew by, you know? And most of it was completely trashed, and I don't remember a lot of it. But childhood, you know, I had my grandma, and she was solid in my life, and most of my memories from childhood was going on trips and stuff with my grandma, and I know I was definitely sober with her. So, but yeah, there's definitely a mourning phase you have to go through when you get sober. Um, when you lose something in your life, it's mourning. And I spent, I don't want to say playing victim, but I had to come to terms with that I was a victim of my childhood, and then that's it. You just move on. And they say in AA, one day at a time. I think that's true to a point, but I love the future and I love thinking about the future, and
Mhm.
so I don't live in one day at a time. But sometimes you just have to endure one day at a time, and I
Yeah.
think that's how I lived.
Yeah. So there's people listening. Everybody, has experienced pain on some level. Maybe not to the extent that
Yep.
you're describing. What has the pain taught you?
Well, so how to fight, number one. Um, Probably from my childhood, the biggest thing I can say I learned was how to be a scrapper and trudge forward. And um, if you can take pain, internal pain, physical pain, that's a quick, edgy pain that, everybody can cry over pain, and that's fine when it's physical. But the emotional stuff doesn't leave. It's long lasting, and it may never leave. It may always be there. You know this from some of our conversations. You bring up something, and we're talking deep, and I'll just start crying, and it's this long pain that's just lingered around. It's still painful. A lot of my childhood is still ridiculously painful, but to learn how to change pain from, because our natural tendency is to make pain into anger,
Okay.
but to take pain and turn it into what it really is. It's sorrow, it's fear, it's sadness, it's whatever emotion that is not anger, because anger is never the answer, right?
Yep.
But at some time, especially men, that's the easiest one to pull the trigger on. And I spent, oh my gosh, probably 7, 8 years working on anger,
Hmm.
and all it was the pain from childhood. So,
Hmm.
I would say people out there trying to, if you've had any dramatic trauma, whatever in your past, there's a lot of pain associated with that. And that's where those processes come in and your values come in, and they help you um, work through a lot of that emotion that's going on. And it really, just call it what it is, cry about it. That's fine. Don't get
Hmm.
angry about it.
Yep.
That's a cop out.
You mentioned your mom and in working with you, helping kind of add some infrastructure to your story.
Hmm.
Ron, one of the things I really appreciated was the way you, in light of what you've already shared, you wanted to honor your mom. You wanted so people who are listening who maybe have a hard time with either their mom or their dad for choices that they made, or maybe abuse they experienced. How have you gotten to a place where, because I just knowing you, I don't think you're capable of hate anybody.
Yeah.
Like you're all love to the actually to the it's actually probably your kryptonite is as much as
Yeah.
you love people. You get taken advantage of. Um, so how do you like talk to the people who are listening who maybe have a troubled relationship with their mom or dad, and how explain a little bit the journey you've taken to, and I think that's what is the right word, to reach a place of peace with
Yeah.
like your mom.
Yeah, so that's funny you say that because my wife Erin, she sees the whole thing from the outside looking in, and she also says the same thing. How are you able to still be in this relationship? Because it doesn't stop. And what I've learned over the first thing I had to come to terms with was that she was sick when I was a child. I know this for a fact because I watched her get beaten by men. I watched her drink. I watched her do drugs. And then I also did those things. I didn't
Hmm.
beat women, but I took beatings. I did drugs and alcohol, and I too was sick. So I put myself in her shoes. That was an easy one to forgive. The hard ones to forgive or to deal with are the ones that still happen. Um, you know, for me, it was my mom has a hard time giving credit where credit's due. And so I spent my life trying to prove to her that I was something. And I actually turned that into gratefulness because I opened all these businesses up in spite of my mother. But at the same time, I'm grateful because she gave me my first start as a bail agent and my first company that I ever owned. She helped me start that. She hired me. She was it's like a double-edged sword. Here's this really cool job that you'll spend 25 years doing, but at the same time, I'm never going to say you did a good job. And uh, but that's her, and I'm okay with that. And uh, I think the biggest thing with our parents that we have to learn to do is to realize that they're people. And if you just want to love them, you have to take them as they are. They're not the superhero that we made them out to be as children. They're normal people like you and I. And I heard it best from a friend of mine, Sarah. She's a homosexual woman, and she has her and her wife. It's not her wife. She can't get married because her parents are old school,
Okay.
and they won't let her, and they wouldn't give their blessing. And it's funny because she goes and sees them 2, 3, 4 times a year in Michigan, and she loves to hang out with them, and she loves them to death. But at the whole time, she has this. They don't like her lifestyle,
Hmm.
and she said, Ron, I just love them and I honor them. And when they pass, I'll do what I want to. But for now, this is my life. And it doesn't hurt me to not be married. I can do this. I thought the fact that she was able to love and honor somebody that didn't agree with her lifestyle is probably the most perfect picture of love that anybody could have.
Hmm.
I don't have to agree with what my mom and dad did or do. I don't have to believe in the same things. I don't need their approval as much as I thought I did. I don't need it. And as soon as I realized that, gosh, then they're just a real person, just like the rest of us.
Yep. You mentioned Erin, your wife.
Yeah.
Uh, so how'd you meet her?
So funny story. I won't give you the whole story, but I was a bail agent looking for a bad guy in a house, and she showed up on the scene as she was a police officer, and she was a royal bee to me, actually. she, I was there, and I dressed back then. It was the late '90s or early 2000s, and this term metrosexual was out, and I was the metrosexual of Greeley in my eyes. And so here I was in these funny looking clothes, uh, and she thought I was gay actually when she met me. But yeah, she was a royal bee to me. I didn't like her. We didn't talk for 3 or 4 more years, 2 to 3 more years for sure. Uh, and then ultimately the way we actually connected was we went on a double date. So me and another girl and her and my friend, and we all went out, and my girl didn't show up, and her date, my friend, got drunk and couldn't. So her and I spent the whole night talking to each other, and that's how we ended up getting to know each other.
Well, Erin she's an amazing lady.
Oh, so Erin, I got to give her, like, there is no book without Erin. There is no businesses without Erin. She is a remarkable woman, but she's also the biggest executor I've ever met in my life. she gets stuff done, period.
So I like to have interesting conversations with interesting people. And so I'm
Good.
going to ask you a question that, because you mentioned you work with bail bonds too. Okay, how's that work? How's the bail thing work? Like I've watched Cops and I've seen,
Yeah.
Dog the Bounty Hunter. Like, but how does it work? So, like, can you explain that to? Because I wonder if people in the audience wanted the same thing. Because I
Yeah.
hear like
So,
the bond is like $1 million or $500,000. Like, what? How does that work?
well, so we'll keep it simple. First of all, in the United States currently, but not for long, probably, you have the right to bail. Okay, so if you're accused of a crime, the government does not have a right to hold you. So they give you a bond amount, and that bond amount is what it costs for you to get out of jail to prove your innocence. Otherwise, you stay in jail. Now, on that note, let's call it a $10,000 bond. I go in just much like a banker. I'm basically loaning the defendant $10,000. If the
Okay,
jail says I need $10,000 to get out, I go give them the 10,000, and in return, I charge an interest rate, but it's in the form of a premium up front, up to 15%, but mostly 10%.
mm-hmm.
So on a $10,000 bond, I would get paid $1,000. So long as the defendant goes back to court, I receive my 10,000 that I gave the courts back, and then I keep the $1,000. So that's just my fee for loaning the money. Where it gets tricky is that a lot of people don't go to court, and so I have to pay the courts $10,000 or get the defendant back in jail within 120 days. So
Wow,
yeah, so that's where I'm always looking for a bad guy. I call them bad guys. They're never bad guys. They're always
I
some
gotcha.
problem has happened in their life. Our biggest value in our business is compassion, and it's sometimes hard. I'm sure you understand that it's hard to have compassion for some of the dumb stuff that these guys and gals do. But
Yep.
I spend a lot of time looking for people and very little time where making the money for the people. So
So how do you get if it's person who's in a bad situation, bonds out of jail, you pay $10,000, they pay you 1,000 to for your services. They skip town or they skip bail. How do you get your money back?
So I got to go find them, drag them back into, put them in jail. And then the courts release me from the bond and
Okay, so
release my
once
money.
they're back in jail, then your money is free to come back to you.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. And
So
it's
really it's
all
just
just fake money. It's power of attorneys. So, I don't write the check until the 120th day, and then I actually have to give them the money. So,
gotcha. Okay, I've always wondered about that. So
yeah,
thank you for
it's
allowing me to indulge me in that. Um, okay, so one more thing about Erin. Okay,
yeah.
um, you guys are a dynamic couple. Um, you are, just if people knew you, they would know you're a dynamic couple. You're not ordinary. You guys are extraordinary. And what's something that makes your relationship with Erin work?
Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. So it doesn't always work. Um, we have had troubles, but I think we're probably at the strongest we've ever been now.
Cool.
And what is it always the sunniest after, I don't know what that saying
After
where,
the storm?
yeah. So man, what really works for us is having some common cause to tackle together. So we're always running a business. We're always got the kids. We've always got a house or something a project that we're aiming for. And that keeps us pretty centered. Work, work helps us stay off of each other. And we roles, when I first met Erin, we're both very traditional in our roles at home, except for over the years, they've kind of flip-flopped because I like to cook. She doesn't cook at all. But and dishes and trash, I do all that stuff. She does not do any housework, which she'll do the sweeping and stuff. So, but the other traditional roles, she's subservient at times to me, and that I need that. I she's a very, 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 very strong-willed person, very stuck in her principles, and she's black and white, and I'm gray all over. So I need that in my life. And then she needs me because the gray, you put us in a room together and I'm the one that's social and out there, and I, sort of break the rules or bend the rules a little bit with the kids and other things in life. And she needs that in her life. She needs a little pizzazz and to pull her out of her box. Um, so I think it works. I mean, you always need somebody to challenge you. And at times that is a problem. Like we'll fight over some of these challenges, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's all good. And honestly, the makeup is always great. So we'll
Yeah.
just keep doing that.
Yeah. She's a very strong, she's actually physically strong. Uh,
Yeah, that
I see her
too.
at the gym and she's stronger than me. She's in very great shape.
Well, and I
What,
think,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I think you nailed it too. The hobbies, like, Erin and I do all our hobbies together. We do all of our philanthropy together. We work together, and we can do all that and not battle all day. I think that's phenomenal. It's lucky.
And she literally has been there to like talk about the time when you died,
Yeah.
and she was there for that.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, we were having a fight that morning, and I apologized right before I had to go in and talk to probation officers about bail bonds, and I was about to do a presentation on that. And she always goes with me for she gives me like she's my rock. I see her out in the audience, and I know I can gauge how I'm doing, and she helps me. Um, and so that morning we got into a battle, and right before we walked into the courthouse, I apologized. I said, I love you. Let's not fight. Let's not go in there. She didn't apologize. She was, typical and did not come off of her stance. So we walked in anyways, and we did the deal. And about halfway through the talk, I actually felt dizzy. And so I thought I was just having normal dizzy spells, but I sat down on the table, and I turned around and I pointed at Erin and I said, Erin always thinks I'm going to have a heart attack. And I dropped and hit the floor just as soon as I got the words out. And Erin actually caught my head and administered CPR right away, which was not working because what it turned out, I was not having a heart attack, but I was having heart failure. Not treatable by normal CPR. You can't fix that. The heart's stretched out, and due to stress, they said. I think it was the 90 monster drinks I was drinking every day. But at any rate, Erin, they called in one of those AED machines, and they were able to zap me back to life. Um, they had pulled Erin out for that part. Unbeknownst to me, I don't understand why, but Erin was actually, she turned off the love and turned on the save this man, and she was just, I mean, remarkable in that moment of emergency. So, but it did scar her for life. To tell you the truth, she still has PTSD with this stuff. The other day, I cut my thumb and I was bleeding all over the place, and I yelled to her, "Hey, grab me a Band-Aid and a super glue." And she come running out, and she's like, "Call 911, call 911," and yelling and screaming. And then she started to pass out, and she couldn't even walk over 10 feet to get me my Band-Aid. Like, she was useless. But she can't see me in pain anymore. That
Yeah.
kind of ruined that. So, but she was remarkable in that moment, and I lived through it. And of course that changed the trajectory of my life from then on.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the businesses, because you and Aaron have been partners in
Yeah.
businesses. Talk about some of the businesses you guys have owned.
Yeah. So, I started out with bail bonds, and I owned a fence company back in the late 90s, building fences. And that I ended up just giving that away. That was part of my drinking and drugging life. I've always tried to open something new or think of some new idea since I was a kid. But in my adulthood, I'm on to 13 businesses. And currently we own a real estate company, our bail bonds company, it's a holding company that builds homes. And I just started a development company with a couple other guys. And then of course, I've got this monitoring company for bail bonds, and all of them are kind of ancillary to each other. We plan to open a lending company in the next 3 years. Um, Once you open like bail bonds, you open bail bonds and then you open a monitoring company that monitors your clients. And I always look at things, the transaction is only so big if you're a bail agent. So where else in that process can I make some money? So you put an ankle monitor on them. Now I'm making money there, and I'm not using other people's. We used to own Max Muscle nutrition stores, and we owned 4 of those at one point. And then we started flipping them because we were really good at building those things and turning them around. We started flipping them. So we found out quickly that, we had our own clothing line in there. We had our own supplement line in there and our own coaching line in there. And we would go out to and do health and wellness at businesses for money. And we just found all these other ancillary businesses that we can open up with under the umbrella. And that's sort of my motto is, wring that rag out until there's no more drops.
So yes, I'm listening. I'm listening to you talk and thinking this is so rich for any young men and women who are, have a desire to get into the business world. So can we just tap into that just a little bit more? What are some,
Yeah.
like, give me 3 of the best bits of business advice you could give to young entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So, when I thought of business, when I opened my first business on my own, uh, there was, I thought it was all, you had to have an MBA and go to college and have this education. And it's so far from the truth. Really, all you need is a passion for what you're doing. And that's what you start with. But if there's anything you can do, first off, you need to realize that business is relationships. It's not paperwork. It's not math. It's not accounting. You're going to do all those things, but it's relationships. That's where your customers come from. It's who you know. And so I spend a lot of time not making money, but making friends. And that works for us, in our community. So probably the second thing is to distill your own values within your company. Our businesses are an extension of ourselves. So you have to be a healthy minded, hardworking person so that your business is that way. And so put your values in the business, make them predominant so that your employees know who you are and your customers know who you are. And your business will run the way you want it to better if your employees understand who you are as a person. And then finally, I would say always have an exit strategy, even before you have a start strategy. I think that was my first mistake with the Max Muscle stores. They got to a point where they were highly valuable, but it took, almost 4 years to sell them off. And we started way too late. We thought we would just sell them, take a month and we'll be done. These are so valuable, but things you don't realize, people don't have that kind of money. It's hard to get money for businesses, especially back in 2012 through 15. There wasn't a whole lot of money to go around. So, but we did end up selling all those. And I think through that experience, every business I start now, I do the values, I do the startup, and I do the exit strategy right off the bat.
Okay. Because you also invest a lot of time in young people who are in the business world. And I mean, hearing your reason for writing this book, Ditches to Riches, one of your passions was to help young leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, with that in mind, what is one blind spot you see maybe in young leaders that you're like, oh, no, you got to get this right?
Right. Yeah. So it's the frame of mind when they come in, especially the really young. First of all, we don't need book smarts to do this game. Business is relationships, not books. So for them to come in with the frame of mind that they can do it is like the very first hurdle that they have to get over. And in order for them to get over that hurdle, I have to change their mind from what we've been conditioned to do as a society, which is go to work your way up, and go to college, go to work your way up and get a big fat check when you're 50. That process is fine and all, but it's not for everybody. And an entrepreneur needs to think unlimited income potential right off the bat. It's a roller coaster ride to live that way. I mean, you're going to have bad months and good months, and good years and bad years, and everything that happens in politically and fiscally through the country that affects you when you live like that. It's a pretty exciting life, and it's also a pretty dangerous life. So I have to get them, let's call it fear, get them over the fear of living that kind of lifestyle, in order for them to really jump off the ledge and say, F it, try it, and
Yeah.
just go for it.
We'll talk about that bravery a little bit, like, because
Yeah.
what steps of bravery have you taken? Because you're a very humble person, but you and Aaron are very successful and have worked very hard and
Yeah.
paid your dues. But bravery is a part of your story. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, in my eyes, there's two forms of bravery. Okay. There's the physical bravery, and then there's also social bravery. And I think I possess both. You know, I'm not afraid to run into a burning building to save a child or something. That's absolutely like the hero part. I own that. But the bravery to walk into a crowded room when you don't know anybody and to be able to hold a conversation, possibly even sell a product or make a relationship appear out of thin air. That's a certain type of bravery. That's a social bravery, and it's the same type of bravery we need in order to run a business, to start a business. You have to be able to work through the fear of the unknown, because you don't know when you're a startup. You don't know what's going to happen. You have all the faith in the world, but you really have to be brave. You have to get to a point where you just say, F it, try it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it a shot. And for many young people, it's almost more awesome because they haven't had failure as much yet, and so they don't know what it's like. You know, there's really not that fear necessarily of failure. It's the fear of what if. And if we can change our what ifs, not what if it fails, but what if it makes it, and we stay on that right side of the street where we're just thinking about what if it makes it, you know, you stay pretty positive, number one, but number two, it helps you jump into that bravery mode, and be brave enough to open a business. But, you know, most of my bravery came from duking it out on the streets when I was a kid. So, you know, it's just ingrained. And Erin, she's extremely brave when it comes to jumping into burning buildings, but extremely not brave with social skills and jumping into business and those kind of things. So it takes all types though, right? So we need people to work for us. We need people to follow us, and we need leaders, and we need people to start businesses so that we have jobs. And I think, you know, I've got 3 kids, and two of them are like that, and they're very brave. And then the third one is a mechanic, and he's very much set working for somebody, and he's happy with that. And he gets off at the same time every day. He's done working at 6 o'clock every day, and that's it. He's done. He doesn't make a ton of money, but he doesn't spend a ton of money either. So, you know, there's something for everybody out there if you want to do it, you know. And you know what, while we're on that, anybody that needs advice for entrepreneur stuff, they're more than welcome to email me. And I talk for free. So.
Yeah. So you get a lot of stuff done. And that's actually one of the chapters in the book is about getting stuff done. Would you talk about that a little bit? And also, Ron, would you allow me a follow-up? Like I like to ask leaders this question. What's something you're doing that young leaders probably aren't doing, or other leaders probably aren't doing?
Okay. Yeah. You want me to answer the first one first?
Yeah. Well, just talk a little bit about, because you're getting stuff done.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that you talk about in your book. So let me be fair to you. Start with that, and then you can answer the next question.
Yeah. I've already thought about this. I'm thinking about the second one before the first one. So, you know, getting stuff done is simply that. Every day you get up with a list of stuff that you got to get done. You're making your calendars every day. You're writing it out for the month if you can. And you're also making room for other stuff that's going to come up. I spend most of my day doing tasks, and a lot of my day consulting with my businesses, the people that are running my businesses. I don't like the transaction so much and I can hire people for that. So I spend a lot of time trying to draw the bigger picture, running the bigger picture items. And so for instance, this is part of bravery and getting stuff done, right? So I hate cold calling. It is the worst thing ever. But in this new business I got, I'm back to being the peon, and I've got to find people that own large large bits of land. And the only way to do that is to make a phone call. And it is the most, oh my gosh, I fear it. So I just got to get it done. And you put that in your head and you go, okay, I just got to do it. And of course, after you do it once or twice, you get to meet the nice people, and it always works out, man. And if it doesn't, you can hang up the phone and try again. So yeah, that, and just getting stuff done. Sometimes we don't have, sometimes the only thing we can do is put our head down and work. And if that's all, that's okay. Today is work my butt off day, or this month is work my butt off day or month. And sometimes that's all we can do to make our businesses go, or to make our life go, or to get that promotion or whatever, just work.
You mean successful people work hard?
Yeah. So here, who I don't want to be is like a billionaire, because I know how hard they have to work to get that money, and I don't want any part of it. It's too much. But yeah, and to answer your second question, what am I doing that probably other successful people aren't doing? I probably, any millionaire out there does more than what I do. But somebody probably new to the game.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not allowing. So you always hear about people that get enough sleep, or that don't get enough sleep. They're sleeping 4 hours because they're entrepreneurs. I'm the opposite of that. I need my 8 hours. And so I make my schedule work for me. So I don't schedule anything before 9 o'clock in the morning at all. And nobody can wait. I don't wake up until 8:30, period. So, and I will stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning. That's the nature of my companies. But I make sure to get that 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And I don't think anybody is worth a hill of beans if they're tired. You make dumb mistakes, you make dumb choices. And I think it's highly important that we get out of that realm that you have to work 8 to 5, because as an entrepreneur, you're going to work the second you wake up till the second you go to bed, period. So you might as well sleep in.
Yeah, well, what you're talking about, and I want to make sure, I want to, basically put a metaphorical highlighter on what you just said to young leaders, whether they be in a church or in the business world, the importance of rest. So you're saying you get your rest. I hear you saying you take your days off.
Yep.
I know, as somebody who knows you, like, yeah, if you need to go play golf or go fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
so
it.
you're striking that balance is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I call it freedom. That I work for, right now. I'm not working for money. I'm working for freedom. And that's where I'm at in life. That's not where I was at 5 years ago, not even 3 years ago, but today that's what I'm doing. If I want to go fishing, I want to be able to say, hey, I'm going fishing, and I don't have to worry about taking time off work, or, that's just my lifestyle. But a young man at 18, you better only be thinking about working. Because it's what can you do today that nobody else will do, so that tomorrow you can do what other people can't do. And that it works. Like I went through that saying in my head over and over and over, why I worked my butt off and really honestly worked myself to death. And then when I came out of that heart failure stuff, I said, I can't live like that anymore. I have to have my freedom to relax. And it works. That motto, it works. Work your butt off on the first front end of your life so that you don't have to later.
In your book, you call that "Live Like You're Dying."
Yeah. So that's huge. And so live like you're dying. I coined the motto because I was running around seeing as many people as I could, doing all the things I wanted to do. And I didn't care about anybody else. And it was really super selfish. And quite frankly, it was not a good thing for my family for a while. There's a way to do that without being selfish. You can I do everything to extreme. I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic, so everything goes 100% the wrong way, and then I realize. So for me, it's boiled down to moments. It's no longer chasing live like you're dying. It's not chasing the next adventure. It's more about taking the time with the people that are around you. Um, Last night, for instance, I played games with, every Thursday we play games together, and we bring in our adult children and their girlfriends and kids, and everybody comes over and we just eat and we play games. And that's the best times of my life. I don't need to go search down the long lost friend that I haven't seen in 20 years. That right there is good enough for me, and but I am going to do things that come to mind. So I'm going to write the book. I'm going to learn how to write music or make music and things like that. And now my new thing, you're going to laugh. I want to be able to sing the song Brown Eyed Girl to Erin and not suck,
Is this a surprise? If you're trying to surprise her, this is probably not the platform to share it.
Yeah, right. I'm not going to do it for a while. I still need to take lessons. So if you know anybody, I want to try that.
Well, you're an artist.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if anybody knows that you're an artist, and you've done a lot of different things, and you use your freedom that you talk about really well. Talk about what you and Erin do for the community. Like, that's something that I think is fascinating in light of your success, and but the impact. I ask it because for me it feels very intentional.
Yeah. So straight up honesty, I started doing stuff in the community. Erin and I did for our business.
Okay.
That was intentional. We were out in the community trying to advertise for ourselves and giving samples of our product to everybody. That's how it started, but that's not how it is now. Now it's just part of our life. We are always giving. We are always giving ourselves, and not necessarily money. It's mostly our time, which is more money than giving money, in my opinion. We try to help others, and Arron is super good at finding families and people that are in need, and we give our personal family to them. So our family is a part of their family, and sometimes that means we feed them. Sometimes that means we give them gifts at Christmas, but a lot of times it means they just come over and they're part of game night, or we invite them to church, or just various different activities to make them a part of what we do. Because we feel like there's a lot of people out there that haven't had experiences. And if that's all we can do, and we have fun too, then that's good enough. My mom always used to say, some people have money, some people have time. Nobody has both. Mm-hmm. And, some of that's true. There was a while where all I could do is give money to people, and to be out in the community for my business was as best I could do. But now we do it because we love to, and we have more time. Well, we don't really have the time, but we make time to help these folks out. And really, we're just everywhere as much as we can be. Any opportunity to speak, I love to do that and talk to especially young people. I feel like I have some wisdom to offer young people. Please stop, don't do drugs.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Say no. But anyways, I digress. So we do a lot in the community. It does. And at the end of the day, it does benefit us. If you're talking from an entrepreneurial side, the community is who feeds you. So you might as well feed them. Be out there in the community and help them out, and they'll pay you tenfold back.
So Ron, what are some of the driving forces in your life?
Yeah. So only thing that has driven me for the last, since 1997 has been my children. That has been the biggest thing, and just showing up as a father has been my biggest drive towards success. Now, of course, I mentioned I'm always trying to prove something to my mother. I'm insecure here. I'm insecure there. At the end of the day, I figured out I have this imaginary person in my head that I'm proving something to all the time. And that keeps me hungry and keeps me going forward. And so I've become okay with that. Like, I don't know who he is or what he looks like, but that guy in there is never happy. So I just keep chasing it.
One of the things I love about you is that you're so comfortable in your skin, and I think sometimes, Ron, we will spend a lot of time with sideways energy,
Yeah.
and we're not. I talk about taking the power back, and what you just talked about is you've taken the power back from your story, from your journey, and good and bad, you're taking the power back and you're owning it. Like you just sat
Yep.
here and said, you're a very like people don't know you. I want them to read your book so they get to know you because it's a true story and it's a powerful story. But you are highly successful. You and Erin are highly regarded in our community, and but you just sat there and said, I'm insecure, I'm this, I'm that, I'm trying to please this invisible person. How did you get to that spot?
Yeah. So I'm highly imperfect, and I realize that that's okay. And actually, everybody is, but nobody wants each other to know about it. So I spend a lot of time showing my imperfections so that other people will feel comfortable around me. Um, Vulnerability is like the easiest way to learn to trust somebody. And with me, you just get what you get. Like, this is me. I'm imperfect. I'm going to say something stupid. I am going to do something stupid if you know me long enough. And so there it is. And a lot of people can connect with that. And I get their imperfections back, and therefore I can help them. Um, it's selfishness too. I don't want to, I got tired of living a fake life,
Mm-hmm.
living for what other people thought of me, worried about what I was driving, what I was living in, where, now I just live in them because I live in a nice house because I want a nice house, not because I'm showing off to somebody or proving my wealth or whatever. That means nothing in the real world. So I think if anybody wants to get there, you first have to die a couple of times, have a huge addiction issue, 3 or 4 wives down the road, you might figure it out. So, or you could just read my book and understand that we're all imperfect.
Yeah. And another book that I'm familiar with in the Bible that's full of imperfect people who
Yes,
God used
sir.
to do amazing things. I'm studying Moses right now. And Moses is like, I can't talk. And he keeps saying, like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And obviously, if you can lead that many people to the promised land, you're a pretty good leader. And Ron, you're a pretty good leader, man. Um,
Thank you.
so so what is your dream for the book? Like I know you and I talked about it, but I mean it's out now. Like what's for you? What's the dream for the book?
Yeah, I would like a lot of people to read it, because I know there's something in there for a lot of people. I don't think there's something in there for everybody. There's this unfortunate thing in the world, and this is going to sound crass, but um, there are people who have values and believe in principles and values in their life. And then there's people who don't, and they're not in the matrix. They don't understand it. They don't, they're in the matrix and we're not in the matrix, if that makes sense, if you've ever seen the movie. So the
Hmm.
people in the matrix, they're just sheep. They follow the society, and I call them stupid. They're ignorant. They don't know what it's like to live a life full of values, and what it's like to have that guide for your life. And so I spend a lot of time looking for for the people that are like-minded. And I think this book really attracts like-minded people. It was not intended to tell my story necessarily. That is how it's coming about. It was intended to help an entrepreneur, a young person, anybody that's ever had problems in their life, understand that you can be as low as dirt and come out from the ditch and be okay. You can follow a dream and get it. I've done many dreams, and look where I came from and what I did to myself. You can get out. People forget, and life moves on. And as long as you're on the train moving forward, you're good to go. That's the dream for the book. I would love, love, love for 40, 50,000 people to jump on the train with me and enjoy having values in their life and understanding how to run a business, probably.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun being your friend. A pastor and a highly successful entrepreneur. And one of the cool things that has already happened is you and I have had a chance to do seminar
Yeah.
on the book. And that's something, I mean, just, yeah, if you would like us to come and work with your business organization, yeah, you can contact Ron or me. I'll put our contact information up and put it on the show notes. But it's just a really interesting thing because you and I come from different places, different journeys, but working with you it was interesting. Just like the friendship that developed, and that coming from different places, but just an odd couple in some ways.
Yeah.
But man, I'll tell you, like we one of the seminars we did, it's obvious that it works. Like it works. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to explain, but yeah,
It's
it's a
good
good
fun.
book, man. I'm proud
Thank
of
you.
what you've done, and I was proud to be a microscopic part of it. Could
Quit
you hold it
saying
up
that. You
again?
know you're a huge part. You need to shut
Hold
up.
up the cover again so we can see it. Yeah, your cat keeps. By the way, your cat is right behind you. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. Ditches to Riches by Ron Worley. Yeah. Hey man, what's something that's bringing joy to your journey right now?
You know, my adult children are bringing joy to my journey. I've tried to control their lives, their whole lives, and to watch them. I didn't want them to get hurt and go through the things I did, and to watch all three of them now. No bounce backs, by the way. All of them are out of the house, and they're all successful in their own right. And I just get a kick out of that every time. I call them and just talk to them on the phone like they're a buddy, and that it just blows my mind that they're not having drug and alcohol issues or on losing jobs all the time or any of that stuff that I went through. And I was able to raise these people. Like, what? Yep. That blows my mind that, well, it worked. Whatever I did, it worked.
All right. I love how you love your wife. I love how you love your kids. And I've had the honor of coaching two of your kids, and fantastic young people. Yeah, Ron Worley, dude, thank you so much for taking time to talk. The book is Ditches to Riches, and you can get it. They can get it anywhere, Amazon. But is there a website they could go to?
Yeah, if they just go to ronworley.com, WORLEY, you'll put it up, I'm sure. But ronworley.com, and the book, you can buy the book on there. It'll take you over to Amazon and all wherever you want to buy it from. I do have audio out now. If you know Elvis, George Gray from Pirate Radio, he did the voiceovers on it. So it's quite interesting to hear him do me.
So there's people listening all over the world, but here in Greeley, Colorado, there's a local celebrity, George Gray. He's an Elvis impersonator, and he's amazing. He's also a radio personality as well. So he did the voice work. That's cool.
Yeah, it's super funny. So you'll have to hear it sometime. I'll send you a copy. But yeah, you can get audio too in case you don't like to read like me. I don't read, but I write.
Cool. All right, Ron, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Erin.